Brock Purdy, San Francisco 49ers quarterback, signed this deal. It was a little Friday night news dump, but a 5-year, $265 million extension, $181 million guaranteed. I did not think he'd get to that number. He got to that number, 7th highest paid in terms of per year at the quarterback position in the NFL. And there's no funny money going on here. Some of the details that have been trickling out, like that $181 million guaranteed number, over $55 million per year over the first 3 years. The 49ers are going all in on Brock as their franchise quarterback.
Yeah, 7th highest APY at quarterback in the National Football League. Good on Brock Purdy and his team. Good on the San Francisco 49ers for getting this done in a climate where obviously you're going to need your quarterback for the future to be on your roster now. It's none of that, well, we're going to get him next year type deal. Jaden Daniels only comes around once a century. So if you have an opportunity to lock a guy up with experience, a history, playoff pedigree, which Brock Purdy does, great. Now, 7th highest APY tells me that he probably stretched 7 or 8 spots fiscally there, because you and I have talked, and I don't think we've ever had him in the top 7 of quarterbacks in the National Football League. There's a lot of great ones out there who are going to be due to get paid, guys who are already getting paid. But for Brock Purdy, I think the most important thing is that the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy realize is we've done this thing together before. We can do it again. Our team has been on the cusp of a Lombardi with one another. Shoot, if it weren't for an oversight in the rules department, we could be talking about Brock Purdy in a completely different light. I think he's a tough quarterback. I think he is a guy who has moxie and all the intangibles that you'd want. He's obviously smart. And I also like to keep the perspective of this is Mr. Irrelevant. This is a guy who was counted out, and he has earned the respect of that locker room. He's earned the respect of the salary cap guy in San Francisco, obviously. I think it's great for him. And one thing that I did is I Googled the most expensive tractor on earth. The most expensive tractor ever sold is the 1913 Case 3060. It fetched $1.47 million at auction in 2022. It's an antique tractor. But if he's going for the most advanced tractor on the face of the earth, and I want to make sure I say this right, it's the Maricrusher MT700. That's what you're looking for. It's essentially tank tracks. It's like Elon Musk designed a tractor. That's what
he's probably going to be doing ads for it here in a second, because he's got Ariat, he's got Pioneer Seeds already, he's got John Deere, he's kind of got the farmer aesthetic to a T. Basically,
he's cornered the market.
Yes, knows about Brock Purdy. But now maybe he's going to go a little classier stuff, because he's going from $1 million was his cap hit this past season to, it's not going to go to that. This upcoming, not going to be massive this upcoming season, but he will have some $50-60 million cap hits in the coming years. It's just going to be interesting to see how much the 49ers can cobble this together, because I think they've gone all in on, you could sign a bunch of stars when you were paying him $1 million a year, right? When you were spending the least of any team in the NFL on the quarterback position, that made it very feasible to, just think about all the big contracts they had just last season. They had Trent Williams, they had Brandon Ayuk, you had George Kittle, who was already on a big contract. You gave him another bigger one. You had Deebo Samuel last year. You had Nick Bosa. You had Fred Warner. You had Charvarius Ward. You had all these guys getting paid a ton of money. Now you lost a bunch of those guys in free agency. A lot of guys who were key pieces to your Super Bowl run aren't there anymore. But I do think Brock Purdy is better than what people give. No one has like the correct take on Brock Purdy. There's either people who are like, look at the stats, he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And statistically, you could make that argument over the past few years. Or there's people like, he's wholly a product of Kyle Shanahan's offense. If he played anywhere else, the guy wouldn't even be a starter. I think the truth falls somewhere in the middle. I think he's somewhere around 14 to 20 in terms of if I were ranking all the starters in the NFL. That's where Brock Purdy ends up. Those guys get deals like this. That's just the way of the NFL. I think it was good on the 49ers not to go top of the market for just the next guy up, which has kind of been the theme, is everyone just sets the record. Doesn't matter who you are. You get the record. They at least didn't get to that. But from Brock Purdy's perspective, has to be a massive win for him, because we were saying that we thought they might try to call us bluff, that they might just go and see, keep paying as you go with Brock Purdy to see how he continues to fare. But obviously
Who's the next guy? Mac Jones?
Mac Jones, the next guy.
Mac Jones, that's Kyle Shanahan's lover boy from college time. He really loved him some Mac Jones coming out. So we always thought that was the potential marriage there for a long term. But as far as the thought process goes for how we're going to distribute wealth on a football team, we've seen the San Francisco's 49ers lean heavily into the star power, and there's a lot of co-stars outside of the quarterback position that were getting paid a lot of money and they were producing. But obviously health, salary cap, the numbers getting inflated year after year, they can't keep it together. They pay the keystone, that's Brock Purdy, and hopefully, like the Kansas City Chiefs, who still are able to retain a couple of those stars on both sides of the ball. The Niners aren't without stars. You look at their roster. Both sides of the ball have guys who are considered to be stars. Both sides of the ball have veterans, leaders that have been in this locker room. I think it's a good move, retaining Brock Purdy, no matter what the cost. Obviously, if they wouldn't made him the highest paid player in the league, I'd have a big issue with it. But this is a tremendous deal that the guys earned. And I think the Niners should be good. I look at the Chiefs, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones. You can't afford you can't afford to keep Joe Tooney. They're going to have to make some decisions here in the coming years. As for guys like Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey, how long they can keep that unit together. But we've seen pieces like Charvarius Ward leave the building in Kansas City. And since they have the quarterback, they have the leadership, they've got the coach, things find a way to get done every year.
Yeah, I will say Brock Purdy's contract, $53 million a year from $1 million a year. That's two starters. That's two high-end paid starters at other positions. So we'll see how they make it work. But it starts with drafting better. They had that 3-year stretch there after the Trey Lance deal where you just couldn't add talent to the roster because you didn't have the picks to do so. You just couldn't add year after year talent. Now they do. Now they have the picks. They hit last year's draft out the park. I thought they had a good draft this year. But obviously, that's what if you're going to turn this thing around, it's going to come through stacking probably 3 straight good drafts to get that baseline.
Get these guys on low numbers. Get these guys on low numbers, man.
100%. All right, other thing in the first off the ball here. The playoff format is due for a vote for this. Let me restart that. They are voting to change the playoff format. There you go. Tomorrow, the NFL will be voting on whether or not they want to reseed when it comes to the playoff time. Now it's obviously seeded by divisional winners and then wild cards. They want to reseed. Obviously, the Minnesota Vikings is a big proponent of this based off of winning percentage. So if you're a wild card, but you won 14 games last year, you can still be the 2 or 3 seed. And if you're a divisional winner and you only won like 9 games, you could end up being the 7th seed. That's what they want. That's what they're voting for. I think it's a travesty. I think we've talked about this before in the show, and I see no reason whatsoever to break from tradition because a few teams are butthurt because they won too many games. What say you, though, Kyle?
That's the word, tradition. You would be bucking from tradition. This is the way that we've done it. I know that there's a pig-headed side of me that continues to do things in my life because it's been done for millennia a certain way, and things should change. Like when my wife is telling me I should get on these vitamins, or I should do this exercise, or this kind of training is best for longevity. Well, the best thing for football, in my opinion, is to have this thing broken down into divisions, and you win your division or you suck in your division, and that's how you get seeded. And unfortunately, every other year, it seems like there's a team that kind of feels slighted because of these rules. Well, we're not going to, we're not changing the menu because one guy can't eat peanuts. You know what I'm saying? Like I like peanut butter sandwiches. A lot of people like these peanut butter sandwiches, man. Let's keep it the same.
Yeah, you've already bastardized what was the greatest playoff format in modern sports history with the 2 double bye
Saturday extravaganza.
Games. It was so good. It was so, and we've seen since then the stupid 7-seed games. I don't think there's been a 1-score game in the 7-seed games.
Yeah.
Now, one of those was a blowout the other way when the Packers beat the Cowboys, but all of them have been blowouts with the 2-seed beating the 7-seed. Like we didn't need it. We didn't need to add it, and we don't need to mess with this.
That was the contract game for Jordan Love, no? Or was that after the contract? It was after the contract.
That was the contract game. I think it was before.
So that's the outline.
Like a mini extension then. Yes, but the division winners, and the people are the argument, or the steelman argument for the other side, is that division winners still matter. You're still making the playoffs no matter what if you get it. But I think it should matter a little more than that. Like, I think it should matter in that you get a home game. You win your division, you get a home game. That's your reward for being the best in your division.
When you start the season, you break it, well, at least before they went to the 17-game schedule, we broke it into quarters. First quarter of the season, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. At about the halfway mark, you start to eye up the division title. And that is your goal. And I can remember specifically being in Kansas City, and that was the message. The messaging from training camp was, we have to win our division. We have to win our division, because if we win the division, we get an opportunity to win our conference. And we're not even going to say the conference word until we win the division. And once that happens, then you can run the conference, then you get to the Super Bowl. I think that there is, that is the shining light in the distance for these football teams, is winning your division. And if you're not going to win your division, you have to find a way to get in, as teams have in the past. So for them to do away with these barriers of divisional play and throw all that stuff out the window, just go based off wins and losses, I just don't agree with it.
Yeah, I don't either. And I mean, it would have made last year's Week 18 game, the Lions and Vikings, which was for, it would still would have mattered being for the 1 seed, but the Vikings fallback would have been the 3 seed had they lost in this new format. It would have had nowhere near the drama if you're still hosting home playoff game, whereas the loser of that game last year, like it was basically its own playoff game, because then if you lost that game, you had to go 3 straight road games basically to get to the Super Bowl. That was going to be tough. And so it added more drama on that Week 18 game. My theory, or my thought, if you want to add some drama and shuffle up the seeding in a way, still division winners, but I say you let the division winners pick who they want to play. So whoever's the 2 seed, they get to say, I want to play. Maybe it's not the 5 seed they want to play. Maybe they want to play the 7 seed they want to play. Maybe they want to play the 6 seed. The 3 seed, maybe they want to play the 4 seed. For whatever reason, you get to
matchups.
Pick who you play. And then again, in the next round, the 1 seed gets to pick who they want to play. Then obviously, and then continue on from there.
That could be another prime time night for the NFL where we get to draft opponents.
Yeah, because it's like that year where Derek Carr broke his ankle. They were not the same team after he broke his ankle going into the playoffs, but they still made the playoffs. It's like, if you were the top seed in that one, you probably wanted to play the Raiders. You didn't want to play whoever you were going to play. So I do think that that is a change I'd be in favor of. But this receiving just based off a record, you're making the divisions meaningless. You're taking rivalries away. It's not, I don't think it's good for the long-term health of the game.
I like your take on drafting opponents based on hierarchy there, the totem pole.
Would add drama without any real heavier lift for the NFL.